All right, so I have to say this as a big hip hop fan, someone that's actually, individually followed the careers of Crooked I, or King Crooked now, Joell Ortiz, Royce the 5'9", and Joe Budden. I was a pretty big Slaughterhouse fan. I loved the mixtapes. I thought it was absolute amazing to listen to. Just a fun experience overall. I actually don't even think their Shady album, right, their one album release on that record label was that bad. Do I think it was a little bit too polished at times? Yeah, but I still enjoyed the experience. I thought it was still a pretty good album. I think it just got kind of panned because it didn't meet a certain expectation, because they wanted to try to have more crossover appeal, and if you want to grow as an artist, that's what you got to have. But that was kind of frowned upon, I think, at that time with their fans. That outside of that is let's just get into it, man. And before I get into it, if you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, it would help us in the algorithm. Just comment down below. I'd like to actually have a real good discussion on this, because it's a shame to see what's happening with Slaughterhouse. You have, Crooked and Joel. They did a couple tracks under essentially under the Slaughterhouse moniker. It was really, really dope though. Like, I thought, like, Backstage and what was it? It was it Recency? I apologize. I'm kind of just thinking off the top of my head with doing this, but like the storytelling and like the way. Okay, so the first video they released, right, where he kind of broke down the situation, Joell Ortiz, of like what happened and how, Joe Budden retired and Royce says he won't do Slaughterhouse without Joe. So what are we supposed to do? And the storytelling elements of Slaughterhouse is something I've always loved, because all of them had amazing lyrical and penmanship that just it kind of draws you in as a listener, because you just want to get lost in that narrative and kind of just vibe and listen to this story in such a dope way, frankly. And then you had Crooked come in and just absolutely do what Crooked does and just destroy that verse. And I don't know, man. It's a shame, because Slaughterhouse hasn't released really anything in, I think, 9 or 10 years, actually. 10 years now, yeah. And I thought they had such potential to be a really big name, but then politics got in the way, right? And then, quite frankly, I think Joe Budden got in the way. Now, for you people that are Joe Budden fans, stands, listen, I like a lot of Joe Budden's work. He's not going to deny how talented he is, but with Joe Budden, the common denominator in all his relationships and all these broken relationships is him, right? Like, he's always having problems with relationships, friendships, record labels. Just the way he went out with his own rap career, having just always constant conflicts with these record labels. Before Shady, obviously, how he felt he got blackballed by Rockefeller, by Jay-Z, which, Jay-Z definitely blackballed him a bit in that whole situation. And then even with his own podcast, with how he did Rory and Mal, and how it just, like, Joe Budden is always the common denominator in all his issues. I feel like he is just one of those people that he always makes the problem like it's like my viewpoint's the most important, or my worldview, or like how it makes me feel is the most important, and he doesn't take into the account of how other people can feel in that situation. And because I'm gonna say this, like, I like all their solo projects, but I think as a collective they could have been far bigger and far greater than any of them individually, because they just had that ability to do so. So it was kind of interesting to see that, like, I watched the live with Budden and Royce, kind of going, talking about the situation. Then Joel kind of, Ortiz joined the call, and he's, because, like, essentially Joe and Royce were saying they were lying. And what I think kind of happened here is that I think Joe wanted to make it so he had complete, full ownership of it, which I think you should do with any IP. And then on the flip side, I think Crooked and Joel's like, well, dude, we haven't produced any music. We haven't done anything for this. We haven't released anything. Like, you know, it's been 10 years. Like, how long are we just going to wait around and do nothing with this? So I think they got to a point of frustration because apparently they came to the table with deals in place, and Joe was just being extremely difficult and then saying he's retired. Oh, I'm not going to come out of retirement. I'm going to do this. And to be fair to Ortiz and to be fair to King Crooked, like, let's be frank. Like, Joe has repeatedly said on the Joe Budden podcast he's retired. He doesn't rap no more. So how can you get Joe Budden if he's not going to be together? And be fair to Royce. Royce feels that, and he said this. He doesn't feel it's Slaughterhouse if it's not all four of them together. This is the one thing. This is why I'll side, I guess, in this situation. If I was to lean towards anyone, I'd lean towards Crooked, and I would lean towards Joell Ortiz. Let's be honest. Slaughterhouse has always just floated out Glass House, floated out different projects, and maybe the idea of coming back, and, you know, Crooked and Joel, they've been seriously wanting to come back and seriously wanting, you know, to make the group, like, make an album, like, making it a thing, you know, leave a legacy behind. And at some point, like, I think, I'm not going to say all of them, but I think some of those people in the group, and out of all of them, I would say more Joe Budden, they forgot, like, they had a lot of fans, and, like, they kind of just left the fans in limbo. People that, you know, really followed that group heavy, fucked with them pretty heavy, and supported that group like that, bought merch, like, you know, you kind of owe something towards the fans after 10 years. You can't just keep, like, magically throwing out stuff like, oh, you know, talking about Slaughterhouse and just bringing it up and never really doing anything with it. So, you know, I think it's a very conflicted situation. But to be fair, at least, like, with, you know, Yayo and fucking Crooked, they're actually releasing music. And those two tracks they were amazing. I absolutely loved them. I thought, like, it just brought back that old school vibe of hip hop, and just the storytelling, the piece were amazing. The choruses, and oh man, I really liked those tracks. It was just such a pleasurable listen to. Kind of, you know, just it felt like early 2000s, like 90s vibe to it. It was just pretty dope. I actually, like, I have to say, that was probably some of the best work I've seen from anyone in that group in a bit. Obviously, Royce the 5'9" had the allegory, and that, like, you know, definitely did amazing things. But I'm saying, like, relatively in this past year or so, it's been that was amazing, and I'm actually looking forward to this project that Crooked and Joel are going to be doing under the Slaughterhouse moniker, because you know, I'm kind of interested as a fan. I'm kind of, you know, I really want to know what happened, because that's the big thing as a fan. And I'll just wrap it up this way. As a fan of the whole group, it was kind of frustrating. Like, okay, so, like, what actually happened here? Like, what stopped this? Was it truly the shady thing? Was that just the last straw and Joe's like said, fuck this, and, you know, I'm not doing it? Or was it just, you know, Joe being Joe and being extremely difficult and not willing to play nice in the sandbox, and apparently asking for more money on stage than the other group members because he was on Love on Hip Hop? You know, it's going to be very interesting to, you know, hear this album and see what's going to be said, essentially. I'll give you my final thoughts. I think this is more Joe Budden issue than anything else. I think Joe Budden is not necessarily a terrible person. I just think he doesn't necessarily know how to deal with business and friendship, and I think he can be a selfish person to a degree. We're all selfish, right? We all have those selfish tendencies, but I think he's a little bit inherently selfish because while he's successful on this podcast, you know, these guys have a dream of making this group an actual thing. So I think at times Joe was kind of a little bit disrespectful, and especially to what he said it to Joell Ortiz in that call towards the end of it, saying SMD. It's like, whoa, like, bro, like, you know, there's certain things you just shouldn't say to another man. But at the same time, like, he got always floated Slaughterhouse around and just, you know, would even kind of do the whole Glass House thing. I'm like, bro, like, it's kind of like it's kind of like a cock tease. I'm not gonna lie, as a fan, it's just like, dude, it would be amazing to hear that Glass House record. I know apparently they can't release it because they've sent those beats to other people, sold them, I should say, so they can make money off of it. But you know, as a fan, I just think we've been robbed the past 10 years, and it's been difficult. So I'm looking forward to the project. I'm interested to what Crooked and Ortiz have to say. So what do you guys think down below? Like, what do you think about this whole beef? Do you think this is something that will ever be resolved? Do you think they're always going to be kind of contentious with one another? Or do you think this will just take time to heal? So this is Captain Paul. I'm done talking about shit, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.